Hello, everyone. This is Fadi, and I want to welcome you to a brand new video series with our dear friend, the Apostate Prophet. And I think everyone will be excited about this particular topic that we are going to cover here together. He's going to be joining us virtually via, a Zoom platform. But we are taking advantage of this, the fact that he made himself available for us. We're so thankful for that. And the topic that we want to discuss with you has to do with what we called the Mary paradox. Like many of you, if you are dealing with our Muslim friends, probably the topic of Mary, the mother of Jesus, has been brought up to your attention. And maybe if you are involved in ministry to Muslims, you came across the contradictions between how the Quran presents Mary versus who Mary is, according at least to the biblical sources. And that's why we would like to take a deep dive into this particular topic. And we are so thankful, of course, and excited to have AP with us here. AP, thank you so much for making time to be with us.
Thank you so much, Al. Thank you for inviting me. It's a great pleasure and a great honor to be here, to be talking to you, to be presenting these topics and discussing them thoroughly. I'm really excited to be here.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you. So tell us, AP, what is it that we need to highlight for people maybe who have never heard of this problem before, or at least have heard of it, but maybe there is something else that we can add to the argument and the contradiction?
Mm-hmm. Well, it is something that I call the Mary paradox, because I think it is a big paradox. It is a problem within the Quranic narrative and within the Islamic understanding of biblical tradition and history and characters in general. It is regarding Mother Mary, who is a personality that is supposed to be very important to Islamic tradition as well. In Islam, or by Muslims, we are often told that Mary does not only play great importance in Christian religion and tradition, but also great importance in Islamic religion and tradition. And of course, the Quran is supposed to be the direct word of the Almighty, all-knowing Allah, who puts this great importance on Mary. So we would expect to see some good information, some consistency regarding who Mary is and her family ties and all that. But we see a great problem occur in the Quran when the Quran tries to make sense of who exactly Mary was and who her relatives or who her immediate family was. And I think although this problem is sometimes overlooked and not recognized as the big problem that it is, this topic should be emphasized because it points at a very big ignorance on the part of the Islamic religion.
Right. So, I mean, of course, Mary, like you said, is a big deal. In fact, there is an entire chapter known as Surah Al-Imran, chapter 3 of the Quran, allegedly dealing with the family of Imran, the family of Mary, and a story about Mary and Zechariah and the connections between the two. And we're talking about Zechariah, the father of John the Baptist, of course, here, and how there is a tie between the two, and who was her father, and how she was dedicated, to God, and so on and so forth. But then you get to chapter 19, and also there is another encounter with the angel, and there you have the announcement of the birth, and the angel appearing to her as a person, or the spirit of Allah appearing to her as a person to make that announcement, and the list goes on and on and on about the delivery. And then you get also chapter 66 of the Quran, verse 12, which is one of the most denigrating passages ever about how God impregnated Mary, talking about disgusting stuff. It's right there. But what we want to focus about is not that. We want to focus about the genealogy of Mary, at least, or who she is, and the connection that is made between her and a family that is allegedly her own family.
Yeah. So I would like to go ahead and talk about one aspect in the Quran, which I think is very important to highlight whenever we talk about a possible mistake in the Quran, which is when we look at the Quran chapter 4, verse 82, we see that the Quran makes a very big claim and says that if this book was from any other than Allah, you would find therein big contradictions or problems. In fact, if we want to simplify it, if the Quran is the direct word of the Almighty Allah as Islam presents it and as Muslims believe, then there should not be a single problem in the Quran. If there is only one single mistake, then the entire religion it falls apart. And if we want to jump right into the topic, there is one thing that we get to first when it comes to Mary's lineage and who she was. Do you want me to go ahead?
Absolutely, please.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
So if we look at the Quran, chapter 19, verse 27, for example, it says, it talks about Mary. It talks about how she gave birth to a son, to Jesus. And when the verse describes her, it talks about her, or it describes people reprimanding Mary for what she has done, because they are accusing her of having a baby out of wedlock. And they say, "Oh Mary, sister of Aaron, what have you done? Your father and your mother were pious people." So we have this verse. This is in 27 and 28 of chapter 19 in the Quran. We have these verses which say sister of Aaron, and this kind of raises a little bit of a red flag and makes us think, wait a minute, what does sister of Aaron exactly mean? Mother Mary didn't have a brother named Aaron. There was no such significant figure. There is a person named Mary, named Maryam in Arabic, or Miriam in biblical tradition, whose brother was Aaron. And that is a completely distinct person. So when we raise this objection and say, isn't the Quran making a mistake here? Isn't the Quran confusing something? We then get a response to that from Muslims generally, that this is not a mistake. This is supposed to be a title, or supposed to be metaphorical. They say what the Quran means here is that Mary, mother of Jesus, is called sister of Aaron by those people back then, as the Quran describes it, because Aaron was an important prophet, and because Mary was from Aaron's lineage, and this was very significant to the people, which is why they somehow called her sister of Aaron in that moment. This is a very interesting response which they make, because this was not the original response. I mean, the lineage of her, at least, was not, or this detailed description was not the response that Muhammad gave. In the time of Muhammad, when we look at the hadith, there is a specific hadith in Sahih Muslim 2135, which explains that in the time of Muhammad, when a companion of Muhammad went to the Christians of Najran, the Christians said to him, "You recite in your Quran Mary, sister of Aaron," but Mary didn't have a sister of Aaron. Aaron and Moses were, a very long time apart from Mary. And when this companion goes back to Muhammad, Muhammad then responds and says, well, people back in those days would refer to people, by the names of important prophets and people who came before them. That's what Muhammad says. So he doesn't actually give a detailed explanation to this, but nowadays Muslims give some explanation to this. They apparently try to give a better explanation than Muhammad did, which raises a bit of an issue. But the issue is, this is not the only problem. The whole sister of Aaron is not the only problem. This could be considered benign. I could sit here and say, well, okay, I guess if you want to believe that this simply refers to her as a spiritual sister of Aaron, fine, whatever, not that big of a deal to me. But if we then go on, we see that in Quran chapter 66, verse 12, the Quran mentions Mary again as an important pious figure, and calls her explicitly Mary, the daughter of Imran, who guarded her chastity. So earlier we have Mary, sister of Aaron, according to the Quran, by the mouths of people around her. Now we have Mary, daughter of Imran. Who is Imran? Why is Imran an important figure? Why is Mary mentioned with the significance of being the daughter of Imran? Why is that highlighted? If we look further, we see this occur again once more in a very significant chapter, as you have pointed out earlier, which is chapter 3 of the Quran, Surah Al-Imran, This chapter is named after Imran, after the family of Imran, because Imran, the family of Imran apparently plays a very big significance according to the Islamic narrative. And beginning at verse 35 in this chapter, the Quran talks about Mother Mary and how she gave birth to Jesus. And it begins by saying that Imran's wife, the person, Imran's wife, was expecting a child and wanted a son whom she would dedicate to the temple, but then she gave birth to a daughter whom she named Mary, and this daughter Mary then gave birth to Jesus. So here we see a very clear lineage, which is Imran, Mary, Jesus. And we see that, as said, Imran is such a significant, such an important figure that this chapter is named after him. And in the hadith, we even see a certain hadith which is considered reliable in Musnad Ahmad 15, where it says that the family of Imran was elevated above humans together with Adam and Noah and Abraham. So it makes us really ask, who is Imran?
Right.
Who is Imran within this context? Who is Imran within the context of biblical tradition? Do you want to add anything here?
I just wanted to, it's kind of interesting, by the way, from a biblical standpoint. I mean, the story of how the mother of Mary dedicated her and she was waiting for a child, it's almost like remind us of the story of Samuel in 1 Samuel and his mother Hannah. There is like kind of like something like that in chapter 3, of course, of the Quran. We have this debacle of an apocryphal writing known as the, Gospel of James, if you wish, where there is some borrowing of some of the things that Jesus allegedly has done, like creating birds and breathing life into them. And then you get also to chapter 19, and you see something interesting, that God, Allah in this case, is appearing as a person, or at least his spirit is appearing as a person. Muslims, of course, are baffled by how can God appear as a person in the Bible, which is amazing. But the most important thing in there is like there is another debacle in there, because he provided food for Mary, and I draw people's attention to 1 Kings, chapters basically 18, 19. We're talking about Elijah, where God appeared to him or sent his angel to appear to him in a cave to provide food for him, to sustain him. So you see some, borrowing from writings, whether they are, extra biblical or not, whether the author of the Quran didn't know what he's talking about, or at least hearsay, heard something, went ahead and incorporated, thinking what was mentioned by the Jews, for instance, or by the Christians could have been inspired by God, and therefore making it to the Quran somehow is going to appease them. So that's the intent, most likely.
Exactly. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that goes wrong here, and looking into the Quranic narrative and Quranic references to biblical scripture and biblical history, we see that there is a lot of discrepancy and a lot of confusion, a lot of very shaky stuff going on, if you want to put it like that. And this whole Mary problem, this whole Mary paradox, is just one of those examples. So it talks about, as said, about Imran and how Mary is the daughter of Imran, and it makes you think, who is Imran? Who is Imran within the context of biblical tradition? Well, Imran is Arabic for Amram, which is the Hebrew name. Amram. Arabic is Imran is the Arabic version of that. In the Bible, there is a character known as Amram, and that Amram in the Bible is the father of Moses and Aaron, and he plays some significance, and he is important, precious, because he's known traditionally as somebody who is sinless, pure, and or he has not committed sins, and he was a very pious man. And funny thing is here, of course, the connections begin to appear. That person, Amram, in the Bible, has two sons named Moses and Aaron, as we know. And then he also has a daughter named Miriam, which in Arabic is Maryam, which is the exact same name that also Mother Mary is known by. So Mother Mary is Maryam, prophetess Miriam in the Bible is Maryam, and in the Bible, this prophetess Miriam has a brother named Aaron and a brother named Moses and a father named Amram, which in Arabic is Imran. And that raises some big issues already, right?
Right.
If you look into it, you have this figure Amram in the Bible. He is important. In the Quran, this figure Imran is supposed to be important. But why is he important? And why is this specific Imran not mentioned in the Quran? Why does the Quran only refer to a different Imran who does not appear in the biblical history? If you want to look at who Mother Mary's father, actually was, according to the Christian tradition, because that's where he initially appears and that's where his significance lies, you will find that in the early Christian texts and traditions, the father of Mary, as much as this is not no longer part of as much as this is not part of the New Testament and of the Gospels, this is found in apocryphal texts, but known to be tradition, which is honored by many Christians around the world. The father of Mary is known as Joachim or Joachim.
That's right.
Which in Hebrew is Yehoiakim, which sounds nothing like Imran or Amram.
Correct.
And what is very funny is if you search online for Joachim, and you look at how Joachim connects to Islam, you will find that Joachim is Imran in Islam, which is a very strange picture to see when you, when you check the sources. You have the character of Joachim, and in Islam he's known as Imran, whereas in the biblical history we have Amram, whose Arabic name should be Imran. So there is some huge confusion going on here, isn't there?
Yeah, it is. It is indeed. Well, I mean, I don't know if you want to wrap up maybe your thoughts for this part, and you want to pick it up in the next part, and maybe we'll start venturing into some of the objections or explanations by the Muslim scholars. So if you want to, maybe add anything before closing.
I think this is actually a good place to close. In the next one, we can then go on to ask the questions and to respond to the objections that we have. But yeah, in summary, we have Mary, sister of Aaron in the Quran, a daughter of Imran in the Quran, whereas in biblical history, we know that Mary was completely distinct from Aaron and Amram, who are figures that are a millennium apart at least. And there seems to be a great contradiction. There's not only one problem, there are two or three problems. There are many problems that must be raised here. And in the next part, we can, of course, come to talking about the significance of these problems, what the responses to them are, and what our insights, what our opinions, what our further objections and questions about these are.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. And I appreciate, of course, you've done a great job as always. And I hope everyone now is paying attention as to why we wanted to address a topic like this, even though I'm pretty sure you'll find articles written on these debacles that we mentioned, the contradictions. But it's always helpful for our viewers, especially those who are new to the topic. Maybe we're drawing some new viewers, whether to AP's channel, to my channel. We want you to, look at these contradictions from a critical thought standpoint. We want you to be critical in your assessment of things. For instance, what I mean by that is this. As AP started it by mentioning that the Quran itself testifies against itself, by the way. The Quran itself actually condemns itself by saying, if you find any contradictions in this book, then it cannot be from Allah. Well, there you go. We have shared with you a handful of contradictions just in this last 15 minutes alone. So, I guess the conclusion is now, if that was the premise by the Quran, the conclusion is the Quran cannot be from God. Is as simple as that. So we want to help our Muslim friends come to that realization. We're not doing it this way, by the way, because we're mocking anybody. We're not. But these are factual things that are listed in the Quran. We didn't go dig it up from somewhere. It's in the Quran itself. And if the Quran is making the claim that these are true facts, then unfortunately, the onus here is on the author of the Quran or his interpreters to prove to us that what we have just shared is wrong, because we have mountains of evidence to support what we shared about Mary from a biblical history standpoint, from a Jewish or Christian standpoint, versus what the Quran is telling us in handful of verses that even contradict themselves oftentimes. That's why this series is important. Next episode, we're going to try now to venture into some of the objections or possible explanations that some of the Muslim scholars would like to present or offer to cover up for this mess. So thank you so much, AP, for being here with us. Thank you, everyone, for watching. And until next episode, have a blessed day. Thank you for watching this video. Be sure to like and subscribe to our channel, CIRA International, and click on the bell so that you receive notifications whenever we publish a new video or go live. I would also like to appeal to you to consider becoming a Patreon patron by clicking the link right below. By doing so, you can give towards the production of these videos. There are also other options for you where you can give to our channel. I thank you from the bottom of my heart.